You're tuned in to Women in America, the podcast that dives deep into the issues shaping gender equality in the U.S. and beyond. Hosted by Pari and Eve, public health professionals by day, content creators by passion, we bring you expert insights, compelling stories, and actionable strategies to push the fight for equality forward.
On this episode of Women in America, we zero in on the SAVE Act. Having recently passed the House and now making its way to the Senate, we look at the very serious implications that this bill could have on women across the country if it becomes law. Let's dive in.
Pari, I cannot believe, well, I can believe, I should stop saying I cannot believe because that's how every one of our fucking conversations starts out these days. But I cannot believe that we are living through a time where they're trying to roll back the 19th Amendment and like somewhat succeeding.
Tell me about it.
What the fuck? And when I'm talking about the 19th Amendment, I'm talking about women's right to vote, which we got the right to vote in 1920. Mm-hmm. We are celebrating over 100 years of being able to just vote as a constitutional right.
And the Republicans were like, 100 years is enough.
Yeah, far too long for women to be able to vote. We need to like reverse this. They've had way too many freedoms and we're sick of it.
Yeah. We're talking about the SAVE Act, everyone.
Yes.
Which just recently passed the House and is now about to make its way to the Senate. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't heard, the SAVE Act essentially places a bunch of restrictions on voter registration, including this restriction that says that you have to have government issued ID that matches your birth certificate.
And proves your citizenship. So they're couching it in like an immigration issue and not addressing the fact that it disproportionately affects women.
Exactly. Notwithstanding the fact that we already have a law that says it is illegal for non-Americans to vote, and therefore there's no need to make another one. This is not actually about citizenship or immigration or anything at all. What it is attempting to restrict women's right to vote because they know that they do not have the necessary power to amend the Constitution. Mm-hmm. And they cannot outright propose a bill that says it is now illegal for women to vote because that's way too on the nose about their intentions. Yeah. So what they've done instead is that they've written the SAVE Act. And the SAVE Act says that if you don't have these matching documents, you're ineligible to vote. And you might be asking yourself, well, why are Pari and Eve saying it affects women? It affects women because most of the time in this country, when women get married, they take their husband's name, which, multiple reasons not to do that. But
if you want to, and that's your jam,
exactly,
it'd be perfectly fine.
Yes, normally, but not anymore.
Not if you want to register to vote if this passes.
And the reason why this is a big deal is because it is saying that it disproportionately and frankly only affects people that have changed their name, right? Which obviously married women is a huge, huge bucket, but there's also trans folks, there's immigrants. Basically, everyone that isn't a man could potentially be affected by this. And that's why inherently it is an unfair, unjust bill that is being proposed. And not just proposed, but like I said in the beginning, it has now passed the House. So it is reaching its way to the Senate. And there's a lot of different responses that even I have been seeing online to this. So we wanted to focus today's episode on just talking about all of the different restrictions that are happening on voting centered around the SAVE Act. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that people keep saying is like, why is it such a big deal for women to not just go and update their documents? Mm-hmm. And Eve, do you want to start by explaining one of the many reasons why that's a ridiculous thing to ask of people?
Yeah, we got a lot of comments on this. One, like, why can't women just upload their go get new documents? Well, first of all, I don't know about you, but I don't actually know where my birth certificate is. I think it's in a safety deposit box, in case my house burns down, that I don't lose my birth certificate. But I would have to, first of all, have the time to go find the birth certificate, right? And if I had changed my name when I got married, I would then have to go through the whole administrative process with, my local government to change the name legally, which there's a financial barrier to. So it's almost like what people call a poll tax, where you're having to pay money. There's a financial barrier to change my name to be able to register to vote.
Exactly. I mean, it is explicitly a poll tax. The SAVE Act explicitly says that you need either a valid US passport or a government issued ID that has your United States birthplace written on it, or you need a military issued ID that has your US birthplace on it.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, a lot of state ID don't have birthplaces listed on them. Okay. So right off the bat, like when I first read that in the SAVE Act, I was like, do these people even understand what state ID looks like? First question. Second, more than half the country does not have a passport. It costs money and time and resources to go get a passport. It's $130 as an application fee right off the bat, like standard blanket minimum. That's what it's going to cost you. On top of that, you have to go get passport photos, which can cost up to $60. Then you have to also pay in some cases, a first time application fee. You also have to sometimes pay a remote application fee. So let's say you live in a place that's like further away from an office than you would want to drive to, you'd have to do that. And even if you physically went in, you'd have to go multiple times because you have to file your application and then you have to come back when it's ready. And oftentimes the filing itself takes hours. So people have to take a day off work or go get childcare, whatever it is.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
And then even if you need additional documents in order to file that passport application in the first place, like for example, a birth certificate, and you, let's say, don't know where it is or don't have one, you have to then apply for the birth certificate. And if you live in a different state than the one in which you were born, you might actually be obligated to physically go in person because a lot of states have that rule to try and prevent identity theft. So now we are looking at a legitimate poll tax of at least, like at minimum, a couple of $100s, but more realistically in the thousands for just women or just folks who have changed their names. So now women are obligated to show up to polling stations or to register to vote, with binders full of documents, while men can just show up in their raggedy ass shorts with their wallet, with their license in it, you know?
And you're talking about like the money and time that it takes to do that, but then people who need to do this also have to back the timeline up to before the voter registration deadlines, right? And passport processing can take weeks, months, like 10 weeks. So like you would have to know when your state registration deadline is and back up all of your document processing time to before when that deadline is so that you can register in time to vote for whenever the next election is. What? Like
exactly.
And like you're saying, it disproportionately affects women. So we have to do all the mental gymnastics, all the backtracking, all the calendaring, and our cute little fucking planners to figure out how to do all this while men can just show up.
Yeah. And that's also assuming that you even have the time, the literacy, the capacity to do any of this, right? In the first place. Like there's a reason why,
like we already live in a country where many people don't vote because it's already too hard because it's not a national holiday on voting day, like let alone doing all those steps to register to vote. People who are registered don't always go vote. I mean, it just makes it harder because Republicans do not want people to vote.
Yes. And I want to really emphasize, there's a lot of people online who are saying stuff like, it's not my fault if you're disorganized, or like, why can't women just have their paperwork in order? Or like, all you need is your marriage license. Number one fact check. The SAVE Act does not explicitly say that if you show up with your marriage license, they will automatically accept your ID that does not match your birth certificate. Okay, it does not say that. So in practice, some agencies might choose to do that, but there's no obligation for them to do that. Number one. Number two, I'm so curious how many men could immediately say where their birth certificate, you're only putting an onus on one group, and you're so deep into the patriarchy that you don't even think that there's anything wrong with that. Like, it's truly mind-blowing, because the number of women that are defending this just because they want to be like on their high horse, being like, I'm organized, I have my stuff, I have my folder, like, great, that's awesome for you, but like, what about everybody else?
I'm just laughing when you were like, men who say, well, why can't women? I'm like, your wife probably knows where your birth certificate is, but you don't. So why can't men just ...
Yeah. And my response to the people who are like, well, just get your shit in order is like, hey, listen, the SAVE Act is the first of many things that they're about to do.
Yes.
Okay. Like I said earlier, they don't have the capacity to actually repeal the 19th Amendment. So
Mm-hmm.
they are going to come at this the same way that they come at abortion. Like, they're not actually going to say abortion is illegal or miscarriage is illegal because they know that the majority of Americans don't support that. They're doing the same thing with this. They're never going to
Mm-hmm.
say it is illegal for women to vote. No, but they're going to just take it from every other angle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say, like, now they're attacking voter registration. In Georgia, for example, 2 years ago, they like made it illegal to give people water while they were in line,
Mm-hmm.
right? They got rid of early voting. They got rid of online registration. So these are all just things that they're doing while they're ramping up to the situation where, in practice, women and marginalized folks are actually no longer able to register or make it to the polls because of all of the restrictions that they've put in place. So just because this doesn't affect you now does not mean that the next one or the one after that isn't going to, and you should really be stepping up right now and saying, we should be putting our foot down and saying, absolutely not, we're not letting this get any further than it already has.
You know what also is hilarious, and I say that sarcastically to me, is you brought up Georgia, and like also 2 years ago when they were like instituting restrictions on voting within the state, they were trying to set this precedent that there were all these illegal, undocumented immigrants who were trying to vote. And so they audited the voter like registrars in Georgia to make the point that like a lot of undocumented people were trying to vote. And it backfired on them completely because what they found, and they tried to like stifle these results, but what they found is that 20 people attempted unsuccessfully to register out of
Mm-hmm.
millions of voters in Georgia. So, one, that percentage is so small. Two, they were unsuccessful at registering. So, like the things that are in place, like the current law in place to ensure that you're a citizen voting works. So, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of this immigration argument for preventing people to vote anyway. And they know it. And yet they're still pushing that reason in order to disenfranchise, yes, undocumented immigrants who are not even trying really to like vote because they know they're not supposed to, mostly to go after women.
Yeah. I mean, the entire immigration thing is just a nonsense false front,
Yeah.
And anyone falling for it is simply showing me that they have no capacity of reading past a headline.
Nope.
Like, truly. Like, there are men in all over social media, on our Threads account, on our Instagram account, just being like, it's not that hard, just bring ID, I have to do it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, no, sir, my literal point is that you in fact do not have to do any of this. Like, the
Yeah.
things that this is requiring are only affecting a certain group of people, and we are continuing to say it's not that big a deal, it's not that big a deal, no, it's not that big a deal, and we are going to it's not that big a deal into 1910 America, where women are in fact do not have the right to vote, do not have the right to wear pants, do not have the right to exist, do not have the right
Don't
to be.
take my pants.
I'm
Don't
just
take
saying,
my pants.
it's really wild. And like, the SAVE Act is in Congress, and at the same time, Elon Musk is buying people's votes in Wisconsin. And the same people proposing the SAVE Act have absolutely no problem with the legality question mark of him buying an election. Like,
And what you're
you know,
talking about is that he had offered to give people who register to vote or to vote for Brad Schimmel. Which one was it? Register
to
to
vote for.
vote for Brad. So he was like, if you vote for this candidate, you will be entered to win $1 million.
Yeah.
And he did actually give $1 million out to two voters, which like so illegal. And then also found out that it was not like a random lottery. It was people who had been carefully selected who were like MAGA supporters. And it's just like they don't care because this is going to get up in court for so long that like the damage has been done, even though it wasn't really done on this election because
He lost.
yeah, he lost.
But I brought that up not necessarily even to talk about the fact that he's buying an election. I brought it up to talk about the juxtaposition of things, right?
Yeah.
Like, in places where they know that there are battlegrounds, like for example, Georgia, they are passing legislation to make it illegal to give out water to people who have been standing in line to vote for hours on end.
That's crazy.
And then compare that to a Wisconsin State Supreme Court election where Elon is paying people $1 million checks, not just for waiting to vote, but for voting for the candidate that he wants them to. And so I bring this up because I want people to understand that these days you cannot take a bill at face value. You have to read into what the actual bill is saying and then understand the implications of that. And in this case, the SAVE Act's implication is that millions and millions of women are going to be ineligible to vote. Mm-hmm. And those, unfortunately, those millions and millions of women live within a patriarchal society that is actively telling them, hey, this is not actually that big a deal. Like, mm-hmm. when Pari and Eve say that they're taking away the right to vote via the SAVE Act, Pari and Eve are lying, because that's not actually what it is, which is, you know, it's like everyone is out here just deep throating the patriarchy on a daily basis and like not understanding that this is the exact intention. Like, this is the goal, is to shroud all of these actually horrible moves in things that they think that Americans will get riled up about. Like, they'll blame the immigrants, they'll blame the, you know, the unregistered folks, they'll blame Black people somehow, they'll blame women. Like, it's Democrats. Always, truly, it's
they'll blame Obama.
Yes.
They will always blame Obama.
The othering that happens in American society between, like, orchestrated by the Republicans is truly a sight to behold. And that is exactly what's happening here, right? Even like women are othering other women by saying, like, just go get your shit done. Mm-hmm. And so it's truly wild when you think about it.
I want to go back to your point where you simply said you have to read. Like, that is a whole statement in and of itself. And I mean that because, like, going back to what you were talking about, like, we started this episode out basically saying they're repealing the 19th Amendment. And if we said that on social media, people would be like, no, they're not. Even if we showed a headline that said that, no, they're not. You need to read the article. What we mean is they are implementing mechanisms to repeal the 19th Amendment. We did this when we talked about the woman who got arrested for a miscarriage in Georgia. And people were like, that is not what the story said. She got arrested for not disposing of fetal tissue correctly. And I'm like, yes, that is the way that they are making miscarriage illegal. And they're like, no, that's not what it is.
The amazing thing about the Georgia case is that they arrested her and MAGA clowns are using a justification for arresting her that isn't even a law.
Yeah, right. But it's simply, you just have to read. Like, you're saying to us, you're just reading the headline and not telling the full story. No, you are not reading anything. Yeah. Like, we are seeing headlines about the SAVE Act. We know that it's disproportionately affecting women, trans people. That is one way that they are starting to go after the 19th Amendment. So when we say they are rolling back the 19th Amendment, we said what we said.
Yeah. I mean, the stupidity of these people knows no bounds. Okay. And I will take any opportunity to talk about how stupid MAGA is. And so I'm about to dive right in. But like,
please, by all means.
And it's not just us that is talking about this, right? Like, it's multiple people across social media are like ringing the alarms about this. And the comments are always just like, try reading the bill. Take your own damn advice, Andrew. Yeah. Like, for the love of God, you don't even understand what this person is saying to you. And then you're just like parroting this bullshit that someone on Fox News said, when like Fox News doesn't even know what they're talking about. Fox News should really be calling themselves Fox Entertainment, because that's all they are. Like, they are just making
Fox
bullshit.
Hollywood.
Like, truly. But the stupidity is alongside true evil, because like there's the people who are like, no, this isn't actually true, right? Because inherently they're admitting that if what we're saying is true, it would be insane. Like, it would be crazy. But then alongside them, there's the people who say the quiet parts out loud, and it's just like, or you could just not vote if you're a woman. And it's like, oh, okay, there it is.
So now you're saying the quiet parts out loud. I mean, there were explicit comments when we've talked about the SAVE Act that said the 19th should be repealed already. And I'm like, oh my God, you're just out here saying this now.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you know how you started this conversation by saying, like, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
And then you took that back immediately. The truth is that red pill influencers have been saying this on their podcasts, on their Twitter feeds, publicly without shame for months now. You know, they are saying the fact that they don't want women to be able to vote. They actually think that it should be one vote per household, which means that the husband in every household would be voting. They publicly say this.
Is that what they're saying?
Oh, for sure. You know, Matt Walsh, that douchebag, dickhead, whatever, all of the slurs that I can possibly come up with.
Dickwad ass hat.
Side note, we should
Oh,
talk about this in a different episode, but I've realized that so many cuss words are at the expense of women as
oh,
opposed to at the expense of men. I came up with this the other day because I was trying to respond to a douchebag in our comments.
okay.
And I was like, even the word douchebag, it's like at the expense of women, you know?
Yes,
Like,
because it's a
yeah,
douche. Okay,
yeah.
let's not preview more of that. We'll do that on a set. That can be its
Right.
whole own
Yes.
episode.
But anyway, it was like a ding 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 moment,
Yeah.
like all of the ways in which the patriarchy is integrated into our society. But anyway, what I'm saying is that Matt Walsh, he talks about this openly on his
Hmm.
platform, like how that women should not be able to vote and that he believes all sorts of things. The irony though is that he's laid out like his 5 preferred criteria for what should qualify someone to be able to vote. And one of them is being able to pass a grade 5 civics test, which would exclude almost the
Most
entire
Americans.
population.
Most
So,
Americans.
right. So it's truly I'm like, do you like who's gonna tell him this
Yeah.
his own criteria would mean that the Republicans would never win again? Like really?
Well, then we should just let him go.
That okay, but this is another problem, right? Like, you know, part of why we are talking about Save Act today is because I think that the Republicans have really mastered this idea of normalization. Like they
Mm-hmm.
are introducing ideas to us at like the 5% level, the 10% level, the
Mm-hmm.
20% level, so that when they eventually get to 100, we won't either realize it or we'll
Mm-hmm.
be totally fine with it because it doesn't seem like that much of a change from like what we were at before.
Mm-hmm.
Another example of this is like Trump is starting to like drop little Easter eggs about how he wants to run for a 3rd term, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
completely unconstitutional and illegal. And in my opinion, this whole response that the left has been having is like, if you do that, we're going to run Obama, is not actually helpful because what we're doing is saying, okay, fine, you're going to
Yeah.
do something
You're
that's
like acknowledging that he's going to do it and that
yes,
that's
yeah,
okay if he runs and we
yeah,
already have a candidate backed up for it. Like that is crazy.
yeah. And we are normalizing it simply
Oh,
because we
yeah.
think that in this particular circumstance, we could win. But that does not mean that it should happen.
Right.
Like I love Obama more than most.
Yeah.
But like that still does not justify the undoing of a constitutional law that exists for a reason, right? And that's exactly my point is like even when Matt Walsh made those statements, a lot of people were like, okay, try this because if you did, you wouldn't win. But no, we won't. We don't want to try that because
Yeah.
what he's saying is like women should not be able to vote, that men should be able to hold all the power. Like, why would we even give in 1%? And that's the point with the Save Act is like,
Mhm.
do not let go of any of the power that we currently have because it is already so limited and
Mhm.
they're coming after all of it.
Yeah. It's just the
So
beginning.
yeah, we need to be careful about how we talk about these things and how we approach them
Mhm.
because we cannot be pandering to this insane environment that they have created where like every hour they're introducing a new bill, a new legislation, most of it which is a distraction to what they actually want to do, right?
Mhm.
And the Save Act, the reason why their side is defending it the way that they are is because they have managed to create a complete lie of a narrative around it to say like this is actually about protecting the rights of citizens when that the Constitution already does that. There's already a
And
tremendous number of
most
laws that
of
do
us
that.
citizens are over here like, we believe in the current law. We good. Like, this is
Right.
not actually a problem. You are literally solving for a problem that you created.
Yeah, which is their classic
Oh, shtick.
MAGA approach, right? But I mean, like, it turns into a major issue because, like I said, this is one of many things that is coming.
Mhm.
And most eligible Americans aren't even voting in our election. So, like, if
Mhm.
you want to try and improve citizens' activation towards elections, be doing something around that. Like, truly,
Yeah.
like, start getting people excited about their civic responsibility. Instead, what you're doing is you're looking at the groups who almost always heavily lean Democrat,
Mhm.
aka women, right?
Mhm.
Especially women of color.
Mhm.
Like 92% of Black women voted for Kamala Harris.
Mhm.
They're looking at those people and saying, how do we do it so that these people are now disenfranchised and they cannot vote? So it's going to look like we are winning elections, but the reason why it looks that way is because we've actively stopped people who would have previously not voted for us from even getting to the polls in the first place.
Can I go off on a tangent?
Of
This
course.
is random, but this happened to me yesterday. You're gonna die. I know I'm usually the optimist in our friendship, this, I overheard a conversation at a coffee shop yesterday that made me lose faith in us being able to recover from whatever the fuck is going on right now. And it was that I was sitting in this coffee shop, tippy tapping away, doing some work, and these two white women sit down next to me. And they're chatting about the state of things and Trump and all this stuff. And one woman asked the other woman, did you go to any of the hands off rally protests? And the woman was like, no, I didn't. And she was like, oh, really? I went. I was super active, blah, blah, blah. And the other woman said, yeah, you want to know why I didn't go? And she said, I didn't go because the right people aren't leading it. And I'm taking my cue from Black women, and Black women are sitting this out. And I was like, oh my God, they're sitting out because people like you didn't fucking do enough. Like now is your turn to stand in. You can't sit out because Black women are sitting out. They're sitting out because you didn't do anything before. Somehow this message is getting lost about the 92% like taking rest right now. That excuses like all women. No, that does not excuse white women. White women need to be stepping up because Black women are so fucking tired of white women not doing enough. And I was just sitting there listening to this conversation like, this is not where you follow the lead of Black women. Like they deserve to take their rest now, and we need to step up and do way more than we've been doing. And it
Well, I
fucking
mean, it is still where you follow the lead because they've asked you to do something. Like they've asked you to create this space to allow them to rest
mm-hmm.
by taking up the baton.
And
Right?
this lady's like, oh, I'm gonna go take a rest too. No, bitch, you don't get a nap now. You need to wake the fuck up. That's the whole point.
Yeah. That is a very classically liberal white women
Oh my God.
approach to life, actually.
Oh, I wanted to die.
Did you say something?
I just kind of looked at this woman and I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. And then I decided I was going to put her on blast on the internet, which I'm planning to do this week.
Okay.
So that's my solution, which I think will have more of an effect, like telling other white women this anecdote so they can see how ridiculous it sounds.
Yeah,
And
I hope so.
maybe I'll
I
tell
hope
her
people receive
myself.
it in the way that it's intended to be received.
Anyway, that was my tangent. Back to voting.
My point is simply, as is yours, is that women, men, allies, every one of us should be taking to the proverbial streets about the
Mhm.
SAVE Act. It's passed the House, fine. Okay, that's happened. It sucked.
Not
Yeah.
even the proverbial streets. Take to the fucking road, like the pavement, get the fuck out there and make noise about this because, like you said before, there's all this like flood the zone news and we don't know what's important. We are telling you that the SAVE Act is a big one and it's already halfway into law because it passed the House. And now all we have is to slam the phone lines of our senators where we'll go next for vote and tell them, especially Republican ones, that we as women, we as male allies, like, we will not fucking stand for this.
Exactly. When I said proverbial streets, the reason why I said it that way is because I said I want people to get on the phone. Like truly
Yeah.
get on the phone, call your senator's office right now.
Yeah.
If you're not a phone person, get on Threads, get on Twitter, like tweet at them, go on Facebook, go yap, tirades everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Tell everybody you know.
Yeah, and if you're not totally sure how to explain this to other people or what to say, Pari and I have posted on this on our social media channels 3 different times. We will put those links in the show notes. We also sent out a Repro Ready, which is our activist newsletter. We'll put that link in the show notes, and you can start there as your activism advocacy package for how to talk about the SAVE Act.
It is a massive, massive deal. Mm-hmm. And if we allow this one to slide without massive opposition, the next one is going to come in and the one after that. And I will say this, not to be a pessimist, but we are still luckily in a position where we're even hearing about this stuff. You know, it is possible. I mean, think about it. We are only 3 months into this administration. Think about what it could be like months from now when, let's say, the next version of the SAVE Act starts to roll down the pike. And if somehow information channels have been disrupted or social media is being controlled, which it frankly already is, but to an even larger extent, we might not even be able to communicate this stuff in the same way that we are able to communicate now. So leverage every opportunity and avenue that you have to contact our lawmakers and tell them absolutely the fuck not, because 4 Democrats in the House voted for this. It's not just their people, it is also our people, which, you know, is a whole other conversation to be having. We need to primary the hell out of them. But my point is simply, like, they need to be hearing from all of us to say that we are putting our foot down, not just if you're a married woman who this is affecting, not just if you're an immigrant, not just if you're a trans person. You should be standing up regardless of your position in American society right now and saying no, because just because they're coming for someone else now does not mean that they're not coming for you in the future.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Women in America. As laid out in Project 2025, Republicans are intent on taking away women's right to vote. The SAVE Act is their first attack, targeting married women by increasing their voter registration burden. Whether or not you're affected by the SAVE Act, it is on all of us to take action to stop it. Call your senators today and demand that they vote no on the SAVE Act. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your network, and don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. For additional resources, follow us on social media at Gemma_talks. See you next week.